They never tell you this. The moment you stop chasing, stop begging, stop explaining yourself, something strange begins to happen inside her mind. The silence you think she ignores becomes louder than your words ever were. Your absence begins to echo in places your presence never could. And while you are sitting there believing she moved on easily, there is a battle happening inside her that she may never admit to anyone. Because human psychology works in a painful but powerful way. People rarely value what is constantly available. But the moment access disappears, emotions wake up. And that is where Stoicism changes everything. The man who understands silence becomes unforgettable. The man who controls his emotions becomes magnetic. The man who walks away with dignity creates a mystery nobody can erase. Subscribe to the channel and become one of the few men learning emotional discipline, stoic strength, and psychological mastery in a world full of emotional chaos. Most men destroy their own value after a breakup. They panic. They overthink. They send long emotional messages at midnight. They stalk social media. They try to prove their worth. They keep reopening wounds that should have been allowed to heal. And without realizing it, they slowly remove every ounce of mystery, respect, and emotional impact they once had. But the Stoic man does something different. He disappears into growth. He turns pain into discipline. He turns heartbreak into power. He understands one brutal truth. Silence speaks louder than desperation. When you disappear completely, her mind is forced to fill in the blanks. That is when no contact begins working psychologically, not because it manipulates her, but because absence activates emotional reflection. People understand value through contrast. Cold makes people appreciate warmth. Darkness makes people appreciate light. And absence makes people appreciate presence. When you were always there, comforting her, texting her, reassuring her, fighting for her attention, she became emotionally accustomed to your availability. Your effort became normal. Your attention became expected. Your love became predictable. But the moment you stop giving energy, the emotional pattern breaks. And broken patterns disturb the mind. That disturbance creates emotional tension. She starts wondering why you became silent. She starts checking whether you viewed her stories. She starts replaying old conversations in her head. She starts questioning whether she underestimated you. This is why Stoic detachment is powerful. Not because it punishes someone, but because it restores your self-respect. Marcus Aurelius once taught that the soul becomes dyed by the color of its thoughts. Most men, after heartbreak, poison their minds with obsession. They wake up thinking about her. They sleep thinking about her. They lose focus. They lose confidence. They lose identity. But the Stoic man refuses to become mentally enslaved by emotional pain. He accepts reality without collapsing. He feels the pain without losing himself inside it. And ironically, that emotional control becomes deeply attractive. Because calmness during emotional storms is rare. Most people are ruled by feelings. Very few rule themselves. And women notice this more than men realize. A man who remains composed after rejection appears emotionally valuable. A man who carries himself with dignity creates curiosity. A man who does not beg silently communicates strength. This is why your absence affects her more than you think. Not every woman will come back. Not every relationship should be restored. But psychologically, your absence changes how she remembers you. Human beings remember emotional impact, not constant availability. When you disappear, the mind starts editing memories differently. Suddenly, the arguments become smaller in her memory. The good moments become louder. Your smile becomes more vivid. Your presence becomes emotionally romanticized. That is how memory works. Distance often amplifies emotional value, especially when the person who left expected you to chase forever. Many women unconsciously expect emotional pursuit after separation. They expect emotional reactions. They expect multiple texts. They expect pleading. They expect dramatic attempts to reconnect. because most men react emotionally. So when you become silent instead, it creates confusion. And confusion creates curiosity. Curiosity creates emotional attention. Emotional attention creates remembrance. That remembrance slowly turns into emotional weight. But here is the mistake many men make. They use no contact as a strategy to force someone back. That mindset destroys the entire purpose. True Stoic no contact is not manipulation. It is self-reconstruction. It is emotional detox. It is reclaiming your identity. You are not disappearing to control her emotions. You are disappearing to regain control over your own life. And something fascinating happens when a man truly detaches. His energy changes. His posture changes. His confidence changes. His conversations change. His standards change. He becomes less needy, less reactive, less emotionally dependent. That transformation alone can make someone feel your absence deeply. Because energy is felt before words are spoken. People can sense desperation, but they can also sense self-respect. One pushes people away. The other attracts naturally. Think about this carefully. Why do people often come back after you finally moved on? Because emotional desperation disappeared. Your focus shifted inward. Your identity stopped revolving around them. You stopped seeking validation. And the moment you stopped emotionally chasing, your value psychologically increased. Scarcity creates importance. This principle exists everywhere in life. Rare things become valuable. Constant things become overlooked. And attention is one of the most valuable emotional currencies in human relationships. When you give unlimited attention without boundaries, people unconsciously stop appreciating it. But when attention disappears, its emotional importance becomes visible. This is why your silence becomes loud, especially during late nights. Because nighttime magnifies unresolved emotions. During the day, distractions exist. Work exists. Friends exist. Noise exists. But at night, the mind becomes honest. Memories return. Emotions resurface. Regret becomes louder. That is when she begins wondering about you. Is he okay? Did he move on? Is he talking to someone else? Does he even miss me anymore? Questions create emotional attachment. And unanswered questions become addictive. This is why the Stoic man never rushes to explain everything. Mystery preserves emotional gravity. Over-explaining destroys intrigue. When you constantly try to prove yourself, you reduce your own emotional value. The strongest presence is often the person who says less, but means more. Stoicism teaches restraint, not weakness, not emotional suppression, but disciplined emotional control. There is a huge difference. Weak men explode emotionally. Stoic men process emotions internally and move strategically. And this affects how people perceive them. Emotional unpredictability creates instability. Emotional composure creates trust and attraction. Imagine two men after heartbreak. One spends weeks posting emotional quotes online, trying to gain sympathy, sending emotional paragraphs, and watching her every move. The other quietly disappears. He goes to the gym. He improves financially. He reads. He heals privately. He becomes stronger mentally. Which man leaves a deeper psychological impact? The silent one. Because growth is louder than emotional chaos. One thing women rarely admit openly is this. They deeply observe emotional strength. Not fake toughness. Not arrogance. Not cold-hearted behavior. Real emotional strength. The ability to remain grounded during pain. The ability to accept loss without self-destruction. The ability to walk away peacefully when respect disappears. That level of emotional maturity is unforgettable. And when she notices that you are no longer emotionally available in the same way, reality begins hitting differently, especially if your energy once provided emotional comfort. Human beings become attached to emotional certainty. Your texts, your attention, your voice, your consistency. When all of that disappears suddenly, the emotional vacuum becomes noticeable. even if pride prevents her from admitting it. Silence creates reflection, and reflection often awakens emotions people buried under ego. But you must understand something important. No contact is not about becoming cold. Stoicism is not emotional numbness. Stoicism is emotional mastery. A Stoic man still loves deeply, still feels pain deeply, still remembers deeply, but he does not allow emotions to destroy his dignity. That is the difference. Modern society encourages emotional impulsiveness. Say whatever you feel immediately. React instantly. Seek instant closure. Seek instant validation. But Stoicism teaches patience, observation, self-control, and patience creates power. When you stop reacting emotionally to everything, you begin seeing reality clearly. You stop idealizing people. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop abandoning yourself for love. Many men lose themselves completely in relationships. Their happiness becomes dependent on one person. Their peace becomes dependent on one person's attention. That emotional dependence creates fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of rejection. Fear of losing connection. And fear always destroys attraction. Because fear creates neediness. Neediness suffocates emotional freedom. But the Stoic man understands that love should complement life, not become life itself. He values connection without worshiping it. He loves without losing himself. That balance creates emotional stability. And emotional stability is rare. This is why your absence feels heavier than you realize, especially if your silence comes with visible self-improvement. One of the most psychologically painful things for someone is realizing they lost access to a version of you they can no longer control. When she sees that you are healing without her, evolving without her, smiling without her, growing without her, it forces emotional reflection. Because humans naturally question lost opportunities. The mind begins asking, did I make the wrong decision? Did I underestimate him? Will I ever find someone like him again? Questions like these create emotional tension internally. But none of this should become your obsession. Your goal is not revenge. Your goal is evolution. The moment you make your healing dependent on her reaction, you are still emotionally trapped. True freedom begins when your peace no longer depends on being chosen. That is the highest level of Stoicism. Reaching a point where your self-worth remains stable whether someone stays or leaves. Most people never achieve this. They constantly seek external validation. Relationships define their confidence. Attention defines their happiness. Approval defines their identity. But Stoicism teaches internal power. Your value does not decrease because someone failed to recognize it. The sun still shines even when clouds cover it. And your worth remains intact even when someone walks away. The problem is that heartbreak often triggers insecurity. Men begin questioning themselves. Was I not enough? Was I too emotional? Was I too available? Could I have done more? These thoughts slowly destroy self-esteem. But Stoicism teaches acceptance instead of self-torture. Not every loss is failure. Sometimes separation is protection. Sometimes rejection redirects your life toward growth you never would have pursued otherwise. Pain becomes transformation when approached correctly. That is why some men become powerful after heartbreak, while others become broken for years. The difference is mindset. One man uses pain as fuel. The other uses pain as proof of weakness. And psychology shows that emotional resilience increases attraction over time. People admire individuals who rise from suffering with wisdom instead of bitterness. Bitterness repels. Growth inspires. Your silence becomes even more powerful when it is peaceful instead of resentful. Many men fake no contact while secretly waiting desperately for a message. That energy still controls them emotionally. True detachment means accepting every outcome. If she returns, fine. If she never returns, fine. Your mission remains the same. To become stronger mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and financially. That mindset creates unstoppable energy. Because your purpose becomes bigger than emotional attachment. And purpose is deeply attractive. A man obsessed with his mission radiates different energy. He speaks differently, moves differently, thinks differently. People feel his presence before he even says anything. This is why some women feel drawn back after months of silence. Not because of manipulation, but because they sense transformation. Growth changes aura. Pain either sharpens a man or destroys him. Stoicism sharpens him. Epictetus once said that no man is free who is not master of himself. That sentence alone can change your entire life. If one person's absence destroys your peace completely, you are emotionally imprisoned. Freedom begins when your emotional state no longer depends entirely on external circumstances. This does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop collapsing. And when you stop collapsing under emotional pressure, people begin seeing you differently. Respect increases. Mystery increases. Presence increases. Your absence starts carrying emotional weight because your identity no longer revolves around seeking attention. There is another psychological truth many people ignore. People often feel the emotional impact of loss slowly, not immediately. At first, distractions numb emotions. Ego creates temporary confidence. Relief can mask deeper feelings. But over time, reality settles. Habits disappear. Silence becomes real. Memories become heavier. And emotional absence becomes more noticeable, especially when they realize you are genuinely gone emotionally. Not playing games. Not trying to force reactions. Just moving forward peacefully. That realization can hit harder than arguments ever did. Because certainty disappears. And uncertainty creates emotional obsession. This is why emotional discipline is powerful. You stop feeding emotional chaos. You stop giving constant reactions. You stop making yourself emotionally predictable. And suddenly your presence gains psychological value again. But remember this carefully. Do not confuse stoicism with emotional coldness. Some men become emotionally unavailable after pain and call it strength. That is not stoicism. That is fear disguised as discipline. Real stoicism allows vulnerability without losing self-control. A stoic man can love deeply while still respecting himself. He can care deeply without abandoning boundaries. He can miss someone without chasing them endlessly. That balance creates maturity. And mature energy always stands out in a world filled with emotional impulsiveness. One reason your absence becomes powerful is because humans emotionally attach to routines. Love is not only emotion, it is repetition, daily messages, shared habits, consistent interaction, small rituals, inside jokes, morning texts, goodnight conversations. When all those routines disappear suddenly, the brain experiences emotional withdrawal. It feels strange, uncomfortable, empty. This is why breakups often feel addictive psychologically. The brain misses emotional familiarity. And when you remove yourself completely, the absence becomes impossible to ignore, especially if you once occupied emotional space consistently. This is why disappearing into silence often says more than endless explanations. Words lose power when repeated excessively, but absence creates emotional imagination. And imagination intensifies feelings. People begin creating stories in their minds about you. Maybe he changed. Maybe he found peace. Maybe he no longer cares. Maybe another woman values him now. These thoughts create emotional reactions naturally. And the less information available, the more imagination grows. Mystery feeds emotional curiosity. That is why constant social media posting after heartbreak usually weakens emotional impact. You reveal too much. You make yourself emotionally easy to read. But Stoicism values restraint, not because silence is a trick, but because peace does not need constant announcement. A lion does not roar every minute to prove strength. Presence alone communicates power. This is why inner peace becomes magnetic. People are exhausted by emotional drama, exhausted by instability, exhausted by emotional unpredictability. Calm energy feels rare. Grounded energy feels safe. And when someone loses access to that grounded energy, they often realize its value too late. There are moments during no contact when you will feel weak. Moments when loneliness attacks. Moments when memories become overwhelming. Moments when you want to reach out desperately. That is normal. Stoicism does not eliminate emotion. It teaches endurance. You sit with the discomfort instead of escaping it impulsively. You learn patience. You learn discipline. You learn emotional independence. Every day you resist emotional impulsiveness, you strengthen mentally. And mental strength compounds over time. The gym strengthens muscles through resistance. Life strengthens character through suffering. Most men run from emotional pain. The Stoic man learns from it. He studies himself during heartbreak. He notices his fears, his insecurities, his emotional triggers, his attachment patterns, and through awareness, he transforms. That transformation becomes visible eventually. Your eyes change. Your confidence changes. Your standards change. Your energy becomes calmer but stronger. And yes, people feel it, especially women who once knew the old version of you. Nothing creates emotional reflection faster than seeing someone evolve beyond the version you left behind. Growth creates contrast, and contrast creates emotional impact. But this journey requires honesty. Some men pretend they are healing while secretly obsessing daily. That is not growth. Healing requires genuine detachment from outcome obsession. You must stop measuring your worth through whether she returns. Because your value was never dependent on one person's decision. There are billions of people in this world. One person's inability to appreciate you does not define your destiny. And sometimes the breakup was necessary to force your evolution. Comfort zones rarely create greatness. Pain does. Many successful men were built through heartbreak. Not because pain itself is magical, but because pain forced reflection, forced discipline, forced reinvention. And when you reinvent yourself properly, your entire life changes. You become more selective, more emotionally intelligent, more disciplined, more focused. You stop tolerating relationships that drain your spirit. You stop abandoning your goals for temporary emotional comfort. You become dangerous in the best way possible. Calm, focused, purpose-driven, self-controlled. That energy changes every room you walk into. And when someone from your past notices this transformation, your absence suddenly becomes heavier in their memory. Because now they realize what they lost emotionally. Not just your attention, but your presence, your stability, your loyalty, your emotional consistency. Humans often recognize value after losing access to it. That is simply psychology. But here is where Stoicism protects you again. You do not allow delayed appreciation to control your future. Just because someone misses you later does not mean they deserve access again automatically. Emotional maturity requires discernment. Some people miss your presence, but still have not changed their behavior. Some people miss your energy, but still carry the same patterns that hurt you. A Stoic man does not reconnect purely because emotions return. He observes actions, consistency, character, respect. Because emotional feelings alone are not enough for healthy relationships. This is where many men fail after no contact. The moment she returns emotionally, they abandon all boundaries instantly. They forget the pain, forget the disrespect, forget the lessons, and history repeats itself. Stoicism teaches wisdom through observation. Do not let loneliness make decisions your future self will regret. Emotional discipline means thinking long-term instead of reacting impulsively. And ironically, this emotional self-control creates even more respect. Because boundaries communicate value. A man without standards eventually loses himself. But a man with calm self-respect becomes unforgettable. Remember this carefully. The goal of no contact is not to make her suffer. The goal is to make you stronger. If she feels your absence deeply, that is simply a psychological consequence of losing emotional access to someone valuable. But your focus must remain inward. Every day ask yourself, am I growing? Am I healing? Am I becoming emotionally stronger? Am I building a life I respect? Because self-respect changes everything. When a man respects himself deeply, he no longer tolerates crumbs disguised as love. He no longer chases inconsistent energy. He no longer sacrifices dignity for temporary validation. And this inner shift transforms relationships completely. People treat you differently when you stop tolerating disrespect. People value your time differently when you stop giving unlimited access. People notice your absence differently when your presence carried peace, strength, and emotional stability. This is why Stoicism is powerful in modern relationships. It teaches emotional balance in a world addicted to emotional extremes. One day of love, one day of chaos, one day of obsession, one day of detachment. Most people live emotionally unstable lives. Stoicism creates internal consistency, and consistency creates trust. Imagine being the kind of man whose peace cannot be shaken easily. Arguments do not destroy your composure. Rejection does not destroy your identity. Loneliness does not destroy your purpose. That level of emotional stability is rare, and rare things naturally become valuable. Your absence becomes powerful because people remember emotional experiences that felt grounded. Most relationships today are emotionally exhausting. Drama, mind games, attention-seeking, emotional unpredictability. But when someone experiences calm masculine energy from a man who genuinely cared without becoming emotionally chaotic, that memory lingers. Especially after they encounter emotionally unstable people later. Comparison changes perception. What once felt ordinary suddenly feels rare. This is another reason absence creates emotional reflection. Distance creates perspective. People often appreciate peace only after experiencing chaos elsewhere. So while you are rebuilding yourself quietly, life itself may be teaching her lessons about your value. But again, never make this your obsession. Your mission is not to sit around hoping someone regrets losing you. Your mission is to become so mentally strong that your happiness remains intact regardless of who stays or leaves. That is true power. And true power is silent. It does not beg, does not chase, does not force. It simply exists confidently. Confidence without desperation is magnetic. Because most people secretly crave emotional certainty and grounded energy. When you stop emotionally clinging, your presence changes completely. You become harder to manipulate, harder to replace emotionally, harder to forget. Not because you became arrogant, but because you finally discovered inner stability. One of the deepest psychological truths about absence is this. People mourn emotional safety more than excitement. Excitement fades quickly, but emotional safety becomes deeply addictive. If you were someone who genuinely cared, listened, protected, supported, and remained emotionally stable, your absence leaves an invisible void. And over time, that void becomes emotionally noticeable, especially during difficult moments in life. Humans naturally remember who made them feel emotionally safe. This is why mature masculine energy becomes unforgettable. Not flashy behavior, not endless talking, not fake alpha performances, real grounded strength. The kind that remains calm during pressure. The kind that protects peace instead of creating chaos. The kind that walks away quietly instead of begging loudly. That energy stays in people's minds for a long time. There will come a moment during your healing where you realize something important. You survived. The pain that once felt unbearable no longer controls your entire day. The memories no longer destroy your peace instantly. The attachment weakens gradually. And in that moment, you reclaim your power. Because emotional freedom returns slowly. Not overnight. Slowly. Day by day. Choice by choice. Discipline by discipline. This is why Stoicism values patience so deeply. Healing is not instant. Transformation is not instant. Strength is built gradually, and every moment of restraint builds character. You become less reactive, less needy, less emotionally dependent, more centered, more focused, more dangerous in your discipline. And when people encounter you after this transformation, they feel the difference immediately. You no longer radiate fear of loss. You no longer seek approval desperately. You no longer overextend emotionally for basic attention. That energy shift changes how the world responds to you, including women, especially women, because emotional confidence is rare. Not fake confidence, not loud arrogance, quiet confidence, the kind that does not need validation every 5 minutes, the kind that remains composed under emotional pressure. That kind of man naturally becomes memorable, and memorable people are deeply missed when absent. Understand this clearly. The strongest revenge is emotional peace, not bitterness, not proving yourself obsessively, not pretending not to care. Real peace, real growth, real happiness. Because nothing confuses people more than someone who became stronger after pain instead of weaker. Your silence becomes powerful when it contains purpose. If you disappear but remain emotionally broken internally, people feel that energy eventually. But if you disappear and genuinely transform your life, your energy changes naturally. You begin attracting differently, thinking differently, living differently. And at that point, whether someone returns or not becomes less important, because you finally return to yourself. That is the greatest victory after heartbreak. Rediscovering your identity beyond emotional attachment. Most men never do this. They jump from relationship to relationship trying to escape loneliness. But loneliness avoided becomes weakness. Loneliness mastered becomes strength. A man who learns to enjoy his own company becomes emotionally dangerous, because he no longer tolerates relationships from fear of being alone. He chooses relationships from alignment, not desperation. That shift changes everything. Now his standards rise. His emotional reactions decrease. His patience increases. His focus sharpens. And ironically, people become more attracted to him naturally. Because emotional independence radiates confidence. One thing no contact teaches brutally is this. You cannot force love. You cannot force appreciation. You cannot force loyalty. You cannot force emotional maturity. Trying to control another person's feelings only destroys your own peace. Stoicism teaches surrender to reality. Control what you can control. Your actions, your discipline, your mindset, your growth, your responses. Everything else is outside your control. And the moment you truly accept this, emotional suffering decreases. You stop obsessing over outcomes. You stop trying to decode every silence. You stop chasing certainty from people who are uncertain themselves. That freedom changes your life. Because emotional attachment often traps men in cycles of anxiety, waiting for replies, analyzing behavior, overthinking mixed signals, seeking reassurance constantly. That is not peace. That is emotional imprisonment. The Stoic man steps outside this prison. He still loves, still feels, still connects, but he refuses to lose himself emotionally in the process. And that balance creates strength. Many women secretly admire men who can remain emotionally composed without becoming emotionally unavailable. Because emotional leadership creates security. A man who collapses emotionally under pressure cannot lead himself properly. But a man who remains grounded during adversity creates calm energy around him. That calmness becomes deeply attractive over time. This is another reason your absence affects her more than you realize. Especially if she knew your loyalty was genuine. Loyal people are rare now. Consistent people are rare now. Emotionally disciplined people are rare now. And rarity creates value. Sometimes she may pretend not to care publicly. Pride often hides emotion. Ego protects vulnerability. But internally, silence creates reflection. And reflection often reveals truths, distractions once buried. This is why late-night thoughts become dangerous after separation. Because emotional honesty appears when noise disappears. The memories return. Your voice returns. Your presence returns mentally. And your absence becomes emotionally real again. But while she processes those emotions, your responsibility remains the same. Build yourself. Strengthen yourself. Protect your peace. Improve your life. Because regardless of what happens romantically, your future still depends on your personal growth. Heartbreak should never become the end of your story. It should become the beginning of your evolution. Some of the strongest men in history were shaped by suffering. Pain forced them inward, forced reflection, forced discipline, forced self-awareness, and eventually they emerged wiser, calmer, stronger. You can do the same. Every day you avoid emotional impulsiveness, you reclaim power. Every day you prioritize growth over obsession, you reclaim dignity. Every day you remain silent instead of begging for attention, you strengthen mentally. And mental strength changes everything. The world treats disciplined men differently. Relationships become healthier. Opportunities increase. Confidence rises. Because self-control influences every area of life. Stoicism is not only about relationships. It is about mastering yourself completely. Mastering anger. Mastering fear. Mastering loneliness. Mastering desire. Mastering emotional chaos. And when you master yourself, you stop becoming emotionally dependent on external validation. That independence creates peace. Real peace. Not temporary distraction. Not fake toughness. Inner stability. And inner stability becomes visible. People can feel when someone is emotionally grounded, just like they can feel desperation. Energy speaks before words do. That is why sometimes your silence creates stronger emotional impact than thousands of messages ever could. Because silence backed by self-respect feels powerful. Not manipulative. Not dramatic. Powerful. If she truly cared about you, your absence will affect her eventually. Maybe slowly. Maybe privately. Maybe silently. But emotional absence leaves traces. Especially when the connection once carried emotional depth. Humans are emotional creatures. We remember feelings attached to people. And if your presence once brought safety, consistency, understanding, and calm energy, those memories do not disappear easily. But whether she misses you or not should never define your worth. That is the lesson Stoicism tries to teach every man. You must become emotionally complete within yourself first. Because relationships are uncertain. People change. Feelings change. Life changes. But your character must remain solid. Your principles must remain solid. Your self-respect must remain solid. That foundation protects your peace no matter what happens externally. A weak foundation collapses under emotional pressure. A strong foundation survives storms. Become the man who survives storms. The man who grows through pain instead of shrinking from it. The man who chooses dignity over desperation. The man who chooses discipline over emotional chaos. Because those men become unforgettable. Not because they try to be, but because grounded masculine energy leaves permanent impressions on people. And when that energy disappears from someone's life, the absence becomes heavy. Heavier than words. Heavier than arguments. Heavier than explanations. Silence has weight when it comes from someone valuable. So stop chasing endlessly. Stop abandoning your dignity. Stop trying to convince people to see your worth. The right people will recognize your value naturally. And the people who don't were never meant to control your self-esteem in the first place. Choose growth. Choose discipline. Choose emotional mastery. Choose peace. One day you will look back and realize the heartbreak that almost destroyed you actually rebuilt you into someone stronger, someone calmer, someone wiser, someone impossible to manipulate emotionally. And that transformation will become your greatest victory. Subscribe to the channel for more powerful videos on Stoicism, emotional discipline, masculine psychology, and self-mastery.